the big news today, and we saw this. There's no Statcaster in the game today. However, Wilmer Flores has been confirmed that he's hitting 99, and so that is something that is a big deal because the fact that last year he was 92, 93 tops. As I asked one of our guys over in Erie because they have the Hawkeye data, if that was the case where he topped out maybe at 94 tops. So the thing is that there's been kind of like, well, did he add miles per hour? No, he was throwing this hard before, and it looks like he's able to reharness it. So Chris and I went, and I will give all the credit in the world to Chris on this. He took two videos.
No.
Well, I mean, let's be honest here. You're the one that did the side by side comparison here,
Yeah,
but
it's not the best side by side you've ever seen. There's guys are different sizes. But it was just like a quick attempt to see what if anything has changed, and it's hard to tell, right? We're using, and the video I used was from 2022 actually, when he was touching 97, and I think he hit 98 in the AFL the year before. So yeah, I mean he's had this, and we always thought that this might, he might throw harder given how big he is. But yeah, so last year was just puzzling what happened to his velocity and his command. So it's really hard to tell. I didn't slow it down. I only slowed it down halfway, and then I was kind of slowing it down more in my phone, or kind of going frame by frame. And the first thing that jumped out to me was just the way he's presenting himself to the plate. He looks a little bit, and the old one on the right, he appears to be like standing, almost looking at the plate, and now he's standing more towards third base. But again, who knows if that's just a trick of the camera. But I will say, just the main thing that I think I noticed is that it seems like he's more of a tall and fall guy now, whereas he was a little bit more drop and drive before. And it feels to me like he's getting his, I guess, his leg down earlier and opening up his hips earlier, and then getting more whip with his shoulder. But I don't know. I'm not a pitching mechanics expert.
Yeah,
that's something that. So when I did speak to Flores, last year when I spoke to Flores, the one thing that he was working on was throwing his changeup quite a bit, and this year he's been working on his mechanics through. I know Evan Petzel reported that. I did ask somebody that I talked to, and I still haven't got any feedback as of yet. But the head whack is something that, here's the thing. Like I know that it doesn't look like much of a subtle difference, but comparatively speaking, when he first came on the scene, where his head whack was really pronounced, it seems like it's cleaned up quite a bit. In addition to just his hair, but I can't help but think too, Chris. I know maybe it's the angle of the camera, but I feel like in a way, he's throwing about the same slot, but I feel like that he's getting more torque when you talk about in terms of his follow through on that. It just the exact mechanic changes that they indicated through what the Freep said on the Freep. Yeah, it's a little bit of a cleanup. It's just you have to kind of like, especially when he puts his foot down. It's when drive right there. It's just seems quite a bit more putting that
like
torque in.
I don't know. It just looks like a little bit more hip and shoulder separation to me, which I think adds a little bit more whip to the arm. But I don't know. Again, like we're basing this off a couple videos that we just took off the internet, and the one thing, I think Chris McCoskey had an article. They had quotes from AJ Hinch, and they basically just talked about, and we talked about this in the minor league podcast, I think, was just they've discovered that if you move your body faster, your arm goes faster. Something pretty simple. And I don't know, whatever it is, it works. I mean, like, we can go over the intricacies of it, but the bigger picture is, if Wilmer Flores is throwing in the upper 90s, that's kind of a game changer for him, because he's more like the guy back in 2022 who was a top 100 prospect to some sites because of that velocity and the two breaking balls, and he threw a ton of strikes. And last year that all kind of backed up on him. So, and his first outing was a little bit iffy. We saw he actually got two quick outs and then kind of sprayed the ball, particularly with his breaking ball. But sounded like today's went pretty well. Now, obviously, again, no StatCast data, no video, just radio, hard to tell. But yeah, I mean, that could add another potential number 3, number 4 starter, or another potential power reliever. into the system, and either of those is going to give the team great options. And he's on the 40-man, so we may see him this year.
That's what I was going to ask. If he maintains this velocity and other, numbers back it up, and he's got some movement on it, how quickly I see him being like a 6-out reliever?
Well, I know Hinch has basically indicated that if he can throw strikes, he'll have a major league job. Essentially, that's what he's been saying since day one. And it sounds as cliche as it sounds, but especially with Flores, because Flores believes that he should have been here already, and that was something that when we spoke to him. But as far as whether he's going to be a starter or reliever, that still remains to be seen. But I think the way they're using him now looks like it could be reliever, because if he doesn't have that. The one thing he struggled with last year was throwing that changeup on a consistent basis, and that's his curve and slide. I mean, he has that short slider, and then he has kind of like I don't know, Chris, is it more like a?
I just, for me, it's easier to call it a slider and a curve. Other people say it's a cutter and a slider or whatever. Yeah. I don't really care. He's got 2 breaking balls. One of them is I think low 80s with a little bit more depth, and one's more mid 80s with a little bit more horizontal movement. He got and we put up his first inning of work this year, the one where he struggled a bit, and his one strikeout in that outing was he got a guy looking with the hook, the deep breaking ball, and so it's still there. You do think he's going to need something to neutralize, some sort of off-speed pitch to help him with left-handed batters, but I don't think it's been a huge platoon issue for him so far in his career, even with the struggles last year. I'd have to check the data there, but I don't know. I think his fastball has always played pretty well. Even when the velocity was down, it seemed to have this sort of shape and spin that helped it miss bats. So, yeah, if you're throwing upper 90s with that kind of shape and you can locate it, that's a potential weapon.
You guys have seen a lot of both. If he maintains this, if this is real, what he's going to be for the short term, at least anyway, what is he over and above a Bo Brisky?
Well, that's a good question. Brisky is kind of the opposite, right? Because he's always been searching for that breaking ball. He's always had a really nice changeup.
Yep.
We tell the story all the time about when we were out there in West Michigan with Jake Bowes and James Chipman, and they were like, "Is that his changeup? That's a damn good changeup." And yeah, sure enough, like a year later, he's in the big leagues. I think Flores, this is a little bit more velocity than Brisky. Brisky has a nice fastball, a good shape on it. So yeah, it's like kind of pick your poison. Do you want a guy without a changeup, or do you want a guy without a breaking ball? Now we saw Brisky's got a new breaking ball this year too. That was another one we only saw via the data. It's a little bit more vertical. I think he's kind of just given up on trying to make it move horizontally. But if he can get it to drop more, it might pair well with his fastball. I don't know. I mean, they're both. And we had this discussion in the Discord earlier. There's nothing wrong with having a whole bunch of guys who throw hard, especially if they have interesting arm angles and interesting shapes. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, I would give the edge to Brisky just because he's been in the big leagues and has had some success. But I would think Flores might have a little higher ceiling.
Yeah, I just think that with starters going less and less innings, they're going to need as many options as possible of guys who can pitch, enter into the 5th and take the 5th and 6th inning off the table for the team when you got a small lead or game tied or whatever. And that's kind of where I've always kind of thought if Flores ever comes on, that's where he's going to fit in those middle innings.